Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Lynell Gordon. On today's episode of the Vacation Rental Show, we are thrilled to have Justin Hauge with us, and he is the co-founder and the CEO of the Storied Collection. And that's a luxury accommodation platform. They specialize in historic and unique properties across the UK and Ireland, which are some of my favorite places. And a really interesting fact, Justin was one of Airbnb's first employees, one of their earliest, and he has played a pivotal role in their growth and helped shape key strategies in customer experience and marketing and sales during his 10 plus years at the company. And he has an interest in emerging tech, guys. And he invests now, think about that, in hospitality, in the future of hospitality. He has like an angel fund, and he's going to share insights with us on vacation rentals. Justin, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I am so honored to have you. I really am. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say today.
Yeah, well, stop me anytime too, because I can just spout off. So, please butt in if I'm becoming a bit too long-winded. But thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that lovely introduction here. That's where I'm at now, Storied Collection. I call it my 2-second pitch is the Airbnb for castles, right? Where my co-founder, Lynell Gordon, approached me after one of these amazing stays that he had in a heritage property. He found out, actually, unbeknownst to him, that it was handed down and actually tied back to his 13th removed great-grandfather. And so he kind of did the research, right, and went back to his ancestry.com and realized that it was, in fact, part of his family at one point. And then it got sacked by the English. And there's, when you start to look back, there's a crazy history. And I think, he had this really profound moment during his stay where it all sort of, the weight of that all kind of came crashing down, right? And to imagine yourself staying in this place that has this just wealth of history that's part of your family history, right? I mean, that's pretty special too, and can become quite transformative in that sense as well, right? And when you look at different types of accommodations, when you're going to stay at a corporate hotel, right, that might lack some of that, which actually does lack some of that, right? Or a place like this that's been around for hundreds of years and multiple generations, we realized that we needed to do something in this space too. So we poked around. Now we have about 25 exclusive use, full buyout, historic homes, castles, estates, a few chateaus now. We've entered into the French market, which I took a trip out there and met with some of the owners. And just to go to these places, right, and hear these stories, and it's been handed down through generations of their family, right, and now they're the owner, and now they're providing these accommodations, and they, you'd walk through this place, and you could see, one of these castles right there was a section that was built by the Roman army, right? And then you see these bricks, and then here's the part that's built by the French army on top of it, right? And you can kind of see this gradation right in the building itself, right? He said, come with me now, we're going to walk to the caves. And I was sort of had a moment of pause, right? And there's literally Druid caves on the property. The chateau is built on top, and you walk down and they had cave drawings and etchings in the walls dating back from, centuries ago. Right. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the time and the place, right, of all the things that went into this place. And now you can, not to be too transactional, but now you can, rent it on Storied Collection, right, and actually stay in this place and experience these things too. So that's what we're doing now. It's pretty exciting. And yeah, originally I didn't have a path of travel and hospitality and short-term vacation rental marketing when I first, graduated, undergrad and downstate in Illinois and Illinois State, and a sociology major, and went into sales and was doing software sales out of Chicago, and just kind of cutting my teeth and trying to hit my monthly quota. And by the grace of God, I had this opportunity sort of fall in my lap with this company, Bed and Breakfast, where I had a friend of a friend that knew the co-founders, that was close with Brian and Joe. This is around 2009, maybe 2010. So, it was still Bed and Breakfast at the time. And so we had this opportunity. We started basically just calling, it was called the pending reservations. This was before I was even an employee too. They didn't, I was like a subcontractor. They didn't even know who we were. It was so funny. So we'd get this list, and it was, started with 20 or 30 the first week. And then the next week it was like 40 or 50. And this list kept growing, but it was pending reservations for people that had an inquiry that was set to expire within 24 hours. We would call the host and say, "Hi, my name is Justin. We're calling from Airbnb. Wanted to let you know you have a pending reservation request for the amount of blah, 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 so many $100. Would you please log in and accept or decline before the reservation?" Right. And it was like this ticking clock. And so every other couple of days we'd get this list. We'd just have to call. And so my roommate and good friend and former colleague, Daniel Prostavic, and his sister, we were all sort of doing this. Right. And, this is like nights and weekends. I was working full time, right, trying to figure out my life path and my career. And I was just out of school. And we started doing this. Right. And then eventually we got brought on to do contract sales work. So they would have a market like Austin, Texas for South by Southwest, or, Vancouver, British Columbia for the Winter Olympics that time. And there would be, you do a search for those dates, there'd be basically no inventory. And the stuff that you did see was dark pictures of someone's couch. And so, it's like, they were like, "Guys, we need you to basically, go to these different markets, call these different potential hosts, find these leads and convince them to list on our platform." And so that's where it kind of started. And we would just kind of, look for places that were listed on like HomeAway or Craigslist or something. And we would just call, "Hey, this is Daniel or Justin. We're calling from Air Bed and Breakfast. Interested to list your space and make, we're seeing people make so and so many $100 a night for their place for this event." And then that eventually led to us calling these crazy private islands. Like, Brian would come to us. He's like, "Guys, you're doing some good work on these other markets. We need help getting these amazing listings that we can market the property," right? Think of private islands, think of safari places, right? Just really off the wall. I remember there was a dog, literally shaped as a dog and painted like a dog hotel in Idaho that we eventually brought onto the site, right? Which is just extremely unique and like was so Airbnb at the time. And yeah, so we did that for a couple months. And then eventually they were like, one of the saddest days I recall vividly, they said, "Okay, guys, well, your contract is up. You've been with us for a couple months doing some great work, but we don't really, we've got enough growth organically. And you've got some great, amazing showstopper properties and listings on our site. But we think we're good and we appreciate everything you've done." Right. And it was this sort of this like, we'd become really close with the company in this like deflating moment, if you can imagine. Right. And we're just sort of, myself and Dan, we obviously very cliche. We walk down the street to the local bar and we're like drowning our sorrows, and then he got a call about 3 or 4 hours later from the then head of customer support, Erin. And she called and she said, "Hey, Daniel, like, we love the work that you've been doing on the sales side. We need help on customer support. We'd love to bring you on. We have a training class, the first initial air crew training class starting in, a week or two or whatever in San Francisco. We'd love to invite you out for the week, immerse you in the company, the culture, and teach you everything about customer support and then have you help on that team." And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And then where it was like about 10 or 20 minutes where he got the call and I was still waiting. And then thankfully Aaron called me and invited me out for the week too. So we went out there to San Francisco and the apartment, the Rausch Street original Airbnb apartment. Right. And we're just sitting at the table and there's a room. The engineers are in one room and Brian and Nate and Joe are in the other room and they're doing interviews and they're doing press. And we were sitting there and we did a full week immersion training for what it was called the air crew, the remote customer support team. And so we did that and then went back out and back to our apartment in Chicago and started answering the phone and replying back to support tickets. And it was everything from people needing their passwords reset to, you can imagine, as a host on the other side, all the things that can go wrong when you invite someone into your home, right? And so we had the autonomy to solve those problems, and it was really quite an experience, right? Those first couple of years doing the customer support, because you really understand the business, you really understand the intricacies, and you have to have that empathy to understand that, on the guest side, this is their trip. They've been planning, they've been coordinating, they paid a lot of money to have this stay at this place, this company, especially this platform that's relatively new. They kind of took a risk, right? Instead of booking your typical hotel. And then on the host side, this is people's homes that they live, right? Where their families and their family photos are on the wall, right? And so they're on the other side taking a risk to let these people in and provide this experience on behalf of the company. And so really put yourself in their shoes, I think was just an amazing sort of eye-opening experience for me, for sure.
Let me tell you this, that You don't know. And I don't think I've ever told anybody around the time you're talking about. There was a Vacation Rental Managers Association meeting in San Diego, San Francisco. I can't remember. It was somewhere out west in California. And we were doing cutting edge technology at the time. I mean, like nobody had the same technology that we did. My business partner at the time, we were both programmers, but he had come from AOL. He had started with that. And, we started before the book it button, just like you're talking about. There was no online reservation at the time. And two guys from Airbnb came up to me and they said to me, and they were just started, they were like, "We want you to do our programming for us." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'd be honored to do that." So excited. I went back to my partner. He said, "We will never program for a company that's not a property management company." He didn't want to program because they were a platform. And I was like, big mistake. These are smart guys. Really. I mean, they had such a vision, and they sat down and talked to me about it. And I remember thinking, what a big thing this could be if they get the right technology. So it's amazing how paths cross.
Yeah, you never know, those sort of forks in the road, right? Honestly, might even be worth throwing your hat in the ring again, too, because I know they're always looking for smart, talented developers, especially those people that have that background in VR and property management software, which is something I honestly, candidly think that is still kind of sort of lacking on the platform.
This episode of How We Grow is sponsored by RevMax, the premier full-service revenue management system. Built for vacation rental managers who are looking for a market edge, RevMax offers data-driven tools and services that will increase revenue and drive more profit. Connect with their revenue management experts at getrevmax.com and discover their full-service revenue management solution.
There's a lot of pieces that need to be added. Everybody wants that one ring to rule them all, to have one platform that does everything. And I think that's what we've all been about. For me, I ended up managing the company rather than doing the programming, and built the company up and sold it to, at the time, we'll just say, it sold it to Inhabit, who Inhabit is now. So, and then I ran it for a couple of years, and then I took my company, which what we did at the time was we created things that automated processes for property managers that their property management software did not do. And we did it by APIs. They didn't have double entry and things like that. So it was really successful. But Inhabit has property management softwares. And so we took all of our functionality and pushed it into those very different platforms because, quite frankly, I didn't see a future for, after they bought my company, I didn't see a future for an independent need because we want to put all of the technology into a platform that someone can just walk in and they can say, "Okay, I want to be a property manager. What do I need? You've got this one thing and I want X, Y, Z, K, L, M, N, O, P, and let's go for it. And now I have my technology platform." That's really been the vision. So I understand what you're saying. There still is a need, and especially for the AI. We have so much learning to do. Well, AI has learning to do, but it's not far off, I don't think. Justin, what do you think?
Oh, no, I mean, I think even saying that it's going to be transformative for business is almost even underselling it in a lot of ways too, right? I think it's going to have such profound impacts for just how we live, communicate, talk, right? I think you can look at, early 2000 kind of tech boom and Google, right, as kind of becoming, right, and becoming that first place that people search for information. I think people aren't going to be using that anymore, right? And they're going to have this chat, right, which they're going to be asking the questions. They're going to be doing the things. As that becomes more and more powerful and takes more and more data, right, it's going to be more and more a part of our daily lives, whether it's personal, professional, or otherwise too. So it's a crazy time, I think, to be a human being right now, which is kind of interesting, right? To think of, going back again to the 1700s and, they're living in these castles and fighting these wars, right? It's like there's so much change and it's happening. So the acceleration, the curve, I feel like it's just happening so fast now that, in 5 years, it's like, I think we're going to be looking at just a completely different way of living day-to-day life.
I 100% agree. I know that Inhabit's been working a lot and developing some, amazingly cool stuff. And I know like 4 different friends of mine, well, you probably have the same friends And they're all working on new platforms that are just transformative to what we're doing. Not just in vacation rentals, like you say, but it's transformative.
Yeah. And the Airbnb CEO has mentioned quite a few times, right? The need, he sees it, right? He's a visionary, for sure. And he's close with Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO there. So, he's right there. He's in the middle of everything that's going on and, has mentioned how important it is for Airbnb to figure out a way to leverage this technology. And I think the first, bringing it back to short-term rentals and OTAs in that world, I think the first company that's able to sort of crack that code, right? And there's a lot of smaller startups that are doing this too, right? That are trying to provide this.
Some of them are really cool. They have the cool stuff.
Yeah. And it's like, just imagine a world just from a travel perspective. You're a consumer at the end of the day and you say, I want to take a trip to this city around these dates. And I want to, 2 or 3 other inputs. And this thing can spit off not only the options for you, can build an entire itinerary for you, and then can go even that next step and take your credit card details and actually complete the bookings for you, right? Can you imagine, how that looks on the consumer side to say, that's great. And, it thought of this thing. And we have a reservation at 7 for this restaurant. It looks really cool. Perfectly fits where I'm trying to be. If I'm, going with my wife, I'm going late, I'm with my family, I need it early, right? There's so many things that it can impact.
What kind of food do you want to eat? Do you want a private chef? Do you want a kitchen? Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and the companies themselves stand to, really benefit if they're able to get in the middle of that too, right? How do you cross that path from someone, searching Google and a company like Booking, for instance, who's paying a ton for, paid ads on that platform, right? To someone coming to this, AI travel wrapped assistant advisor kind of tool that's then, booking those stays, right? I think the big companies are still trying to figure this out in a lot of ways, right? And I'm not sure how that all plays out, but there's the opportunity is immense. And like I said, I think the first company that can kind of figure it out stands to benefit a great deal.
I'm very excited because there's so much data. I remember a few years ago, I used to preach, that we know as much about our clients as Amazon does because of the data that we get as property managers that come in. Now, think about, let's go a step further than what you're saying. People trying to book and they're like, I want XYZ, KLMOP. Think about it this way. We have an AI that automatically goes out and it looks at past behavior and predicts future behavior and automatically creates all the marketing for that. I mean, I think we're going to be really surprised to see if you've been in vacation rentals a long time and you have an inventive mind, someone like me who thinks about things like that is going to sit down and say, okay, let's spec it all out, which is what I love to do. Let's spec it all out. Now, how do we make it happen? Let's find the technology and how that's going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of take your background and, creativity and then 10x it with this technology, right?
Because it's so much smarter than we are. I mean, it's a computer. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be insane too. So I'm just along for the ride. I'm just trying to, make my bets at the right places and, see where this all ends up too. It should be exciting.
If you were a property manager today, what advice would you give other property managers that are completely overwhelmed because of all the technology that's out there? Because there are those, and they are looking to see how I can leverage AI and how I can leverage whatever technology is out there. What advice would you give them?
I think a property management company that's managing, call it 10, 20, 50 to 100 sort of properties, whether they own it or on behalf of the owners, right? You want to try to do as much as you can to take the value of the different platforms that you're using, but also not be so beholden to one or the other that if something goes down or something changes, right, then your entire operation needs to take a step back and figure it out, right? To try to build as many internal tools and things like that, right? Leveraging AI, which is for the amount of sort of technological power that you can drive from that and the cost is pretty interesting, right? And so figure out a way to use this new technology to try to drive as much traffic to your direct site, right? Kind of take those other OTAs and those other channels that are charging you an arm and a leg or requiring you to do X, Y, and Z, right? That's a ton of the problem right there. I think day to day is figuring, okay, how do I manage this calendar where it's coming from this channel and that channel? I have to have this pricing on that pricing, and I have this channel manager and set that up, right? That's like, kind of being in these offices. That's what I feel like the major pain points are and then someone orchestrating it all in the background to make sure that when someone does come online, they see, oh, this is the price and this is the season and this is the minimum nights and this is on the front. It's all seems very buttoned up, but we know coming from this world that in the back, it's.
Yeah, you're trying to look at the automated pricing that you've got set up, and then you have to go back and check it and make sure it's right. And then you have to find out on this platform, they charge X%. And so you have to make sure that you are charging your base rate plus the X% plus whatever other fees they have for this platform, which is different than this platform. And there are softwares that do that now, but you have to keep hold of them. I mean, you really have to keep hold of them.
And I think that's the sort of issue that I've seen before and the problem that they run into is that they try to keep bolting on new software to solve the problem, because there's always another software vendor and a provider that's trying to get you to pay a monthly or an annual subscription. And, all your problems will be solved, right? And what I've seen is that at the end of the day, it actually just creates a bit more headache because it's another thing to integrate. And it's like the golfer, right, that can't figure out his swing and keeps buying new, training aids and new clubs and new this and that. And it's like, you just gotta, get back to the root of this thing and figure out how to hit this ball down the line, and you'll be much better, right? And kind of remove a lot of those, complexities at the end of the day.
I wrote software for 22 years, and I'm with you. I mean, I spec'd it out and had it written. Let's put it that way. I started out writing it, but I didn't at the end. And I can tell you that, and this is not a shameless plug, but it's true. I can tell you that there are softwares out there like Streamline who are trying to do exactly what you're saying. They don't want you to bolt something else on. And it's not because they're trying to get all the revenue. It's because they're trying to give people platforms that will do what they need in the same platform. And I think the future that we're looking at, where we talk about, people going online and picking something or having AI pick for them, I think that there's a real path there for Airbnb and for Inhabit, for all the property management softwares that they have, to be able to go and be able to put that into their platform. Because AI is not easy. I mean, it's not that hard to implement into your platform. The problem is getting it to do what you want it to do, give back what you want it to give back, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, and just the PMS space in general is still a bit fragmented too, right? And like you said, like Streamline, I think is one of the better partners. And I know a lot of, I've worked with them in the past too, in my time in vacation rentals, but they're still trying to solve a lot of the problems too, right? So no one really has it all down.
Nobody has it figured out. They're my favorite though, but nobody has it figured out. My family's in property management as well. And so I've tried to lead in ways that will solve the problems that I know exist in property management. But man, it's growing at the speed of light right now.
Yeah. And I think, not to wave a flag or provide any, I think that to be cautious as a property management company, you also run the risk as these technologies continue to, evolve and be adopted by the individual owners themselves. Ultimately, there's an opportunity, right, where the property management company can get squeezed out, right? If it's as easy as possible for the owner, the second homeowner, to say, what am I paying this 25, 30% to this company to do all this work for when I have AI? I can do it myself, and I can set up the cleaning, and I can do all right. If that gap, which I don't think it's there yet, right? People still need to have this local expertise and pricing and seasonality, and ultimately someone needs to turn this place over and wash the sheets and scrub the toilets, right? So there's always going to be a need for that. But as the technology emerges and there's other ways to do it, right? And you're able to if the owner kind of looks at it and says, you know what? I got the time. Maybe I can just do this myself, right?
That's so funny. Like last night, I take time for myself, and I was taking time for myself. That's so funny you said that, because I had somebody on the program who was talking about, I don't remember what he called it. I usually keep my notebook here and I don't have it, but it's a rental of 1 to 3 months, which we don't normally do, in vacation rentals at the beach where my house is. But I was thinking last night, and I love my family. They do a great job renting my house. But I was thinking, what if the homeowners are not going toward the operational part of it, but yet they're using AI for the marketing? And I was thinking, I have this amazing domain. The domain is called ncbeaches.com. And I was thinking, what if I use that domain and I did something really cool on that domain for marketing. Now, I wouldn't book it. I would let it book through the property management company. But those type of things where I could plug in. So you're right. Homeowners are going to think about that. They're going to think outside the box when they have time, like you say, and they're going to say, I need to do this really cool thing. So, I agree. I was thinking about it last night, Justin. I'm with you.
Yeah. And I've seen it too, just in my world too, people at Airbnb where they're, this is before I think AI too, but they're marketing whiz, they're SEO geniuses, right? And they have this property and they have this amazing URL, like you mentioned, right? And so maybe they start with the two, they have a couple cabins, up in the Poconos or something like that, right? And they have poconoscabins.com and they drive this amazing SEO. They have this platform that they're able to then take direct bookings. And then maybe they lean on an Airbnb or another channel like that or something, right? But it simplifies the process for them. They maybe have a local cleaning company that's able to do it. And I've seen these people actually, then they grow into property management companies themselves and so it's like, this is business at the end of the day, right? Someone does something in an efficient, effective way. They're able to charge less than the competitors and they're able to take market share, right? This is like a tale as old as time. And that'll obviously continue to play out.
This episode of How We Grow was brought to you by RevMax. To find out more about how RevMax can help to grow your vacation rental business, visit getrevmax.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.